Good morning, everybody. Looking forward to an interesting discussion about the latest developments in steel and aluminium packaging. My name's Alex Fordham, so I'm Managing Director of the Metal Packager, and we're the leading digital resource for the global metal packaging market. Over the past few years, we've released a successful podcast, which is in the top 10 for packaging podcasts globally. So please be sure to check it out. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. So we release an episode every couple of weeks or so. And it gives me great pleasure today to have a live podcast session, which will be available after the show. And likewise, all the podcast sessions that you'll be seeing during the week for Talking the Can, they'll be available to download. So please be sure to check this out. So thanks, guys. We've got a nice discussion with Steelforce Packaging here. So Brian, if you could just introduce yourself from Steelforce America.
Hi there, my name is Brian Talley. I'm with Steelforce America, based in Los Angeles, California. I represent Steelforce's activities in North America, where we focus on a variety of steel products, as well as aluminum products across the North American platform. Nice to be here today.
Thanks very much. And Angelica, in terms of Steelforce Packaging, there's been a exciting new venture into the aluminium market as well. So if you can just give a brief introduction, that would be appreciated.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Angelica Papageorgiou. I am the Global Director of the Aluminium Division at Steelforce Packaging. Our name is Alumforce, and I'm based in Switzerland. And we are running the aluminium business all over the globe, in cooperation, of course, with our US offices and several offices over the globe that we have.
Thanks very much. So that's the introduction out of the way. So we're going to get straight onto the nitty gritty. And Brian, I'm just going to start with you. I think the last few years we've seen lots of pressures in terms of obviously COVID-19 seems a long way away now. We've had cost of living pressures, supply chain issues, and obviously at the moment geopolitical pressures in terms of market volatility. So if you can just perhaps provide an overview from Steelforce Packaging, where you see the market at the moment and the challenges as an industry, because we were talking in kind of pre-production about industry and business confidence breeds confidence, and I think we're kind of in that state of play at the moment. So I'm just interested to learn about kind of the North American market and where you see things.
Yeah, as you allude to, we've had Section 232 back in 2018, where the Trump administration, round one, put in tariffs both on aluminum and steel. I think we survived that well. We went through COVID, as you know. That led to a run-up, certainly in tinplate consumption, can consumption. It also put incredible pressure on supply chains, including those in the aluminum market. As we come here today, I think in North America, we have a relatively stable market, but we have a market that I think is plagued with uncertainty. We've got uncertainty related to a war in the Middle East. We've got questions about the housing market, about interest rates, about oil prices. I think our customers, to be successful, need to understand what the environment will be, not just today, but tomorrow, and to be able to make sense of that so they can make business decisions, whether those are for capital investments, whether it's for supply chain, those type of things. So I think if we can have certainty, we can have a supply chain that's reliable. Our customers can make business that's ongoing and sustainable.
In terms of your customers, are they worried at present, or is this just the natural kind of peaks and troughs of a business and the society that we now live in?
Look, in the U.S., we've got low unemployment. I think historical low unemployment. We've got interest rates, though, a little elevated. At least they're stable for today. I think we've got a booming AI. We've got booming energy market. We've got so many things working well. I think what we need, though, is a return to the housing market, because with interest rates elevated, consumers are sitting in their homes, not moving their homes. And so they're not buying a new dishwasher. They're not buying a new HVAC unit. They're not flipping homes like they used to. So I think if we can have a return to a good housing market, we've got good automotive, strong energy. We can have a measure, again, of certainty that allows people to make great decisions that are ongoing and lasting.
Angelica, just want to bring you in on the aluminium side. Perhaps just if you can just start off with a bit of an overview with the aluminium market, and then we'll talk about Steelforce Packaging and the exciting new venture into the aluminium market.
Talking about the supply that you have discussed previously, well, especially this period, because of all these geopolitical turbulences that is happening, the supply chain has been affected tremendously. And up to now, our customers, or I would say the customers mainly, were focused only on prices. So the thing is much more complex than this. The customer right now should be more proactive instead of reactive, because we are facing so many unexpected events, such as lack of containers, lack of trucks for the transportation, lack of material, and especially which especially affects the aluminum industry. We have seen what happened with the two major suppliers, producers in the Gulf area. So therefore, the customers should focus at this point on the business continuity mostly, and having alternatives in their pocket rather than being focused only on price. And that's our role, Alumforce and Steelforce role, with our capabilities, with our, I would say, big portfolio of suppliers. We are able to provide them and to offer them material from different sources worldwide without um, having them, without letting them facing tremendous problems with their production continuity. That's our role, and we are doing it pretty well. I believe so.
I agree with you.
So is there a big opportunity for Steelforce Packaging, because we've seen raw materials costs in many sectors, not least the metal packaging sector, where prices have increased by 20-30% in some cases, where you're right, it turns into cost. Everything's to do with cost, but actually it's speaking to a real specialist such as yourself, so you can, in terms of being problem solvers. So is that where Steelforce Packaging come into account?
Yes, yes, for sure. I mean, we are trying to, let's say, to inform our and give to provide to our all our customers all the information that we have from the market, technical speaking, and not only. And of course, sharing with full transparency all the information and all the latest evolution that we have from our suppliers in order to let them fill this gap.
Mm.
So I believe that the biggest advantage of Steelforce slash Alumforce, because it's a huge and a very important organization and company, is the transparency between the customers and the suppliers. We are a trader, but with a different perspective. The first message that we transmit to our customers is that you will enjoy full transparency from us with no hidden things. So I believe that trust and continuous support and collaboration between the three parties, I mean, suppliers, customers, and our capabilities and business intelligence will lead us to the perfect result. That's my point of view. I would, yeah.
That's great, and I think for perhaps not necessarily for our audience here, but for our listeners who'll be listening to after the show, Steelforce Packaging have obviously been associated highly with the steel industry, venture into the aluminium market. So if you could just perhaps provide an overview about Aliforce and what this means for the market, I think it's
Well,
sounds like an exciting opportunity.
yeah. I would like personally to thank the top management of Steelforce Packaging, giving me, and giving the company the opportunity to develop this business. Because I believe that aluminum together with steel can do miracles. The technical specifications of aluminum are different to steel. Personally, I am more, I mean, fond of aluminum because I have always done aluminum my whole life. But of course, there are pros and cons for each material.
True.
But I will continue supporting aluminum and, of course, steel because it's part of our company. So I believe that now it's the right moment to jump in the market.
Okay.
And the reason is aluminum continues to increase and will continue to increase constantly the years to come. As you know, the global aluminum production is around, the primary aluminum production is 72 million metric tons, out of which more than, I would say, 42 million are produced in China and the rest in the rest of the world. On top, another 30 million are produced from recycled aluminum. So actually, right now, more than 100,000 metric tons are in the world of aluminum. 70 primary and 30 million, I'm sorry if I said, metric tons are in the market. On top, aluminum is infinitively recyclable. I believe also that steel is. I'm not a steel expert, but it is. And the thing that the whole market is targeting in circularity, sustainability, and in the European Union, that we have, I would say, legislation, more strict legislation comparing to the other continents, United States, Asia. There are not such legislations like PPWR for circular economy or CBAM. I strongly believe that Alumforce can, on the one hand, give and offer to our customers, suppliers that are meeting those expectations from the market, the first thing. And the second thing, offer to and provide to our customers all the information, the required information, in order to support them to meet into the requirements from the EU, and not only from the EU, but because in the near future, I believe that those legislation, you are from UK, you know that CBAM is not still active live in UK, but since 2027 will also be applied in the UK. And in a short period, I believe that this will happen also in the United States, because in the United States, one important thing that I would like to mention is that 50% of the total consumption is based on recycled aluminum,
Just want
which is really, really important.
Just wanted to bring Brian in. Thanks very much for that comprehensive overview. Really interesting on the aluminium side. I think it sounds like exciting time with Steelforce, because you've got obviously Booster in your North America division as well. So
right.
I just want to deep dive into a bit more detail about that, Brian.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd wanted to comment on that Angelica brought up, and that is that so many of our customers that use steel also use aluminum. So that knock on the door that we make to a customer, whether it's industrial, whether it's packaging, whether it's other, there's two opportunities to sell. Opportunities to sell aluminum, opportunities to sell steel. So I think for our customers who want options, supply choices, we provide that to them with this one-stop shop of aluminum plus steel.
That's because that was a question I was going to ask, because I was like, is there a little bit of a conflict of interest there? But you're saying obviously your customers.
I think it's A plus B.
Okay.
And that A plus B just allows us, with that one knock on the door, to provide choices.
Yeah.
And what I think customers need and want is choice. And then what a trading company does is provide them options from around the world for quality, service, price, and delivery, with terms, with consignment, with just in time, that allow them to do their job. And so when we look at North America, we're scaling up North America. We're adding an office in Los Angeles. We've hired 2 new sales managers that started May 1. We have another sales manager starting on July 1st. We have another sales manager starting May 11. So what that means for us is localize the business, speak local, act local, talk local, with a global supply chain. And I think that combination of leading suppliers from around the world, whether it's in aluminum or steel, with experts on the ground that speak the language of our buyers, speak the language of our suppliers, is just a winning combination.
We interrupt this episode for a brief segment from our sponsors, PPG.
Packaging coatings from PPG draw on our company's 140-year history of innovation. We never stop improving our solutions to meet the evolving needs of can makers and the marketplace. That spirit of innovation results in technology like the cradle-to-cradle platinum-rated PPG Innovel Pro. PPG Innovel Pro is the latest enhancement to the world's #1 non-BPA beverage can coating. It still doesn't use any bisphenol ingredients, but experienced can makers report that it now sprays like an epoxy. Follow PPG Packaging Coatings on LinkedIn or visit packagingcoatings.com to learn more about why PPG is the coatings partner for can making excellence.
Do you think because we've lived in a very globalized society recently, so do you think we're moving back towards that more localized side of things, or do you just think it's a healthy mix of the two?
I mean, certainly the trade environment is There's barriers to that. But again, I go back to, like in our private lives, we want to have choices. When we go to the grocery store, whether we pay for a can of tuna, a bottle of Coca-Cola, we want to have a choice. And I think international supply brings choice, not just in price, which I think is a misleading thing to think that we focus on price. When it comes to quality, service, reliability, that's what international options bring. And I just don't think that changes even in the environment we're in today.
Why the decision now? I mean, what was the overriding factor? Was it in terms of cost or speed, reliability in terms of this boosted infrastructure, new technical hires? Why the decision now?
I think with my colleagues out of Steelforce Antwerp, I think we've said it's sort of a new frontier. I think coming into the USA means you have to talk local, think local, act local. And I think I commend my colleagues at Steelforce for the desire to come into the market, to touch the market in a new way. I think we provide a perspective that is years in the making. Myself, 40 plus years in the steel industry, 35 of those in trading, in products like tinplate and hot rolled, cold rolled, galvanized. So in addition to aluminum, so we'll bring just a host of knowledge with local speak, local mind, but we also know how to speak internationally. And that means you have to understand the psychology of your supplier, how he wants to get to market, the products he wants to bring to market, how he wants to bring them to market. And then you have to know how to introduce that to your customer in a way from 5, 7, 10,000 miles away that the two are going to marry. And when it comes to his door and the coil or the sheet that he or she's going to use makes sense for the line it's going to go on, for the product it's going to go for the application it's intended for.
You mentioned that psychology. Is there any tips that you can share in terms of your over 30 years business experience about dealing with your customer and dealing with that on that global stage?
I mean, I really think when I think of our customers, I was thinking of the other day, one of our customers in Central Valley of California, which is the richest agricultural part of the United States. Think of a coil of tinplate that's coming in, let's say, from Malaysia. It's coming in, it's going to be processed on a shearing line where the gentleman running the shearing line cares about the gauge control. He cares about the flatness. He cares about the surface. He cares if it looks like what it came from across the street rather than from around the world. He knows it's going to be made into a can that's going to be on the shelf that's going to work. So my mind is you have to think like that operator of that can line, think like that packer of that tomato can, if that's the example I'm using, and integrate those with a supplier that's thousands of miles away.
Thanks very much for that overview. Just want to move on to more of the supply chain side of things. So Angelica, I'll bring you in. We've seen major disruption in the supply chain in the last few years. In terms of now, the here and now, what are the challenges in terms of the aluminium supply chain? And also then we'll get Brian involved in terms of how that compares in terms of steel as well. So just a bit of a, perhaps, because we've got a very eclectic mix here at the show this week. So perhaps an overview of where we're at in terms of the overall supply chain will be a nice place to start.
I would say that today we're facing one of the most difficult period regarding the aluminium. Not only aluminium supply chain, generally speaking, aluminium production, and of course, aluminium supply chain. The thing is that, as I mentioned also previously, one of the biggest producers in the world, serving mainly EU, United States, and some part of Asia, have declared force majeure. That means out of nowhere, more than 3 million metric tons of primary aluminum are gone. So this will impact drastically and has already impacted drastically the market. How? The first thing is the LME. As you know, aluminum is a non-ferrous metal, is listed on the London Metal Exchange. So the LME has increased more than 500 US dollar, I would say. Right now we are at 3,600 US dollar per metric ton. And we are expecting, if the war will not stop, to reach the 4,000 metric ton dollars per metric ton. So this creates first price increase on the LME is the first huge impact. The second impact, the lack of material heads the market or oblige the market to buy the very same material with very high premium. Because for each product, there is the pricing formula, which is LME plus premium or plus some other parameter, depends on where the material comes. I will mention one simple example. We are buying primary aluminum also from Asia. I don't want to name the country, but from Asia, as you know, they do not apply the metal bulletin or fast market premium, duty paid or duty unpaid. They are applying the Japanese premium. Japanese premium Q1 of 2026 was 190 US dollar, and all of a sudden, and according to our experience, all of us, the aluminum professional talking between us, we were expecting an increase of 50 at least. The idea that I was sharing with the sales team internally in Steelforce was, please take into consideration another 50, 60 US dollar in order to proceed with your offers. I don't know if you have in mind how much is it today. 351. Obviously, I do not have the crystal ball, and I don't know, and this premium changes every quarter. In my view, this premium will further increase during Q3 because this premium is changing every quarter. It's not like the metal bulletin changing duty paid or duty unpaid every week. So this is a really, really difficult period. First, for the prices that I mentioned, premiums. Therefore, this impacts the insurance credit limits that we have. This is a huge problem for us as a trader because for every customer we have a credit limit, supposing 100,000 US dollar, okay? When the unit price was 100 and now the unit price is 400, the credit limit is not enough for covering our let's say, sales contract and supply contract with our, you got my point. So this is really difficult. This is the first point. The second point is that there is no doubt disruption, very, very big disruption regarding the supply chain, because some of our producers, they have already declared force majeure. So we as traders, as Alumforce, Steelforce, we have either to declare on our own at a glance force majeure, and that's it, or we should try and get material from another supplier, depending on the product, if it's going to be primary, or even secondary aluminum, in order to satisfy our customers. We are not trying to run away with the problem. We are there, and we are trying to support our customers. And of course, we are trying to support also our suppliers during the bad and the good times. This is our philosophy, and this is
Solutions, right?
and
Solutions.
this is our goal, to find solutions. That's why we are here.
I just want to bring Brian in on that. Is
Sure.
it a similar situation in terms of the steel market? I know I hate the term, kind of the new normal in terms of volatility. Is that just a fact of life and a fact of doing business now that we all talk about? Oh, at the moment we're in a really tricky period, but I've been hearing that for the last decade.
I guess I think of, again, in the U.S. During the height of COVID, and in Los Angeles, where I live and work day to day, we had 150 vessels out in the port of Los Angeles that couldn't get discharged because Los Angeles is the gateway for so much of Asian supply. We don't see that type of disruption today. So I think in terms of supply chain and that vessel availability, I don't see that yet. I know it could be out there.
I believe that there is a time lag. I mean, from
Sure.
I'm sorry for
No,
the
go ahead.
interruption,
No,
if I
it's
can
good.
comment. I believe that there is a time lag of at least, I would say, 2 months between what is happening in UAE right now and in Europe and United States of America and Latin America. I believe that the major problem is not yet there because there is this time lag because of the transit, okay? I mean, it's worth mentioning at this point that the transit time from UAE to Latin America was 60 to 70 days, and now it is unknown, 90 days. So this affects also our capital and also our customers.
So to that point about that peak of COVID and vessels out at sea, what it meant is, to your point about credit, we had extended credit. We had extended money out there. And that meant, one, from a financial point of view, as a financer of the supply chain, we had to have more credit and more availability from our banks. That was number one. We also had to communicate with our customers when they were going to get their material. So to your point about the new normal, I think the new normal is there's always change. We've got a new trade case that was just filed by U.S. Steel on tin mill product from Taiwan, from China, from Turkey. That means supply chains will change. Potentially, those three suppliers, those three countries will be out of the market. But again, to your point, Angelica, our job is to offer another solution. That could be a domestic solution. It could be an offshore solution. It could be a combination of solutions, because what our customers want is quality product delivered on time from reliable producers. And again, that's our job to do that. And that's what we do, I think, really, really well.
Just one more question before we move on, because I appreciate the time's running away with ourselves, and some of these topics we could have a whole hour or two to discuss, and we're trying to give a bit of a whistle-stop tour here. But just in terms of the wider supply chain, is there anything that the both the steel and aluminium industries could do to make the supply chain more robust at the moment?
Angelica, what do you think? More robust?
More robust supply chain.
Yeah, is there anything you could do to improve the supply
Well,
chain at the moment?
I would say this is also my personal philosophy. In order not to make only the supply chain more robust, but also personal relation more robust, I think that transparency, honesty, and collaboration is the only solution. This is my point of view. Because right now, if you're asking me to give you a question only based or oriented for the supply chain, for the aluminum or the disruptions related to aluminum or steel, the answer is not obvious. But I would say that the only way in order to overcome those difficulties is to share transparently and honestly information between us. Because at the very end, we are players at the very same territory, not only Alumforce or Steelforce, but all of us, all traders, producers, customers, because without us, producers, there are producers, but they cannot sell without us, without our support, which is really important because we are offering a lot of things, a variety of things. And there are also customers that they cannot work without us because we are also offering a variety of things.
But I think the word we haven't used, really what I think we are relationship managers, and relationship managers with our suppliers, with our customers. And that relationship management, as the words you've used, it's trust, it's communication, it's consistency, it's reliability. And I think we use the word trader sometimes synonymous with so many things, but I think really in the end, we connect the dots of supplier and customer. But we also didn't touch on the other part of this. It's our vendor relationships. It's the trucking company that gets the material off the dock. It's the stevedore that moves it from vessel to land. It's the warehouseman that stores it in the warehouse until we ship it just in time. It's our customs broker. It's our credit insurance providers. And it's also all of our employees. And each one of those people sort of acting in synchronicity, if you can say that word. I think that's exactly what we are. And the other thing I think for the job we both get to do is when we do our job right, it's like being a conductor of an orchestra. If you can have all the music play just right, that's what international trade is to me, conducting a great orchestra.
Well, I'm guessing that you get one part of the orchestra correct and something breaks down on the other side. So you're never quite happy.
That's right. But you're always working.
Yeah.
And I think, again, the vendor-supplier relationships we've got are amazing.
And if you allow me, I would like to add one more thing. I believe that what makes us different, but in a positive way, I mean, Steelforce, Alumforce, is also the personal relation, with a very good personal relationship we have with our suppliers and with our customers.
Yep.
And also, I mean, all the things that we are doing, the information we are exchanging within the team, we are trying to grow all together.
That's right.
Appreciate that. Just going to move on. We're a little bit pressed for time now, so just kind of a few quick fire questions here in terms of perhaps the wider industry here. We're here at Metpack, the metal packaging trade show, every 3 years. So I just wanted to get a bit of an overall industry perspective, Brian, in terms of metal packaging. We're talking about the challenges here, but perhaps do we do a as metal packaging producers, can makers, etc., do we perhaps sometimes do ourselves a disservice? And actually, the industry, despite these challenges, is in. Perhaps I'm biased running a metal packaging trade magazine, but perhaps we don't talk about the benefits and the merits of as an industry, and that we are actually in a pretty good place overall. So I just wanted to get your perspective on that.
I guess in answer to your question, what I reflect on is we come to the U.S. in 2026 with an overhang of inventory, an overhang in terms of tin plate inventory, an overhang in terms of can inventory. And I think that all was about the adjustments the supply chain had to make to less domestic supply and the need and the reliance on more foreign supply. So I think the metal packaging industry has a great story to tell because of the recyclability, the reliability. You hear about cans that sit on shelves, steel cans, sorry, tinplate cans,
Yeah.
for years and years and years. And you can go open that can as a consumer. You can open that product, eat the product in it, and it tastes good, it's safe, and it's reliable. So I think the industry's flourishes in so many ways. I think of the innovation in aerosol cans, where people like DS Container in the US have put together a two-piece laminate can that seems to thrive and do really well. And I think innovation will continue to be what drives the industry. It's what the consumer is looking for. And I think it's what the marketplace and the suppliers can offer.
I can sense the passion in both your voices here. That you're very passionate about the industry, which is fantastic. And Angelica, in terms of Brian's perspective there about metal packaging industry, where we're at, do you share that optimism as well in terms of the industry? We've got that good
Yes,
story to tell.
of course, and I believe that the best is yet to come. And I have to say that aluminum is better for has better
We'll arm wrestle later.
aluminum. I would say it's better for food and packaging. Technically speaking, today our audience is not technical, but if we want, I mean, to use it's a better barrier, okay, especially for food and beverage, and for those kind of stuff. Despite the fact that Brian, let's say, could say, or the steel team can say, yes, but Angelica, aluminum is much more expensive. Yes, but I would say that aluminum is much more expensive, but in the long run, it's not, because it is recyclable. You may say also still recyclable, okay. It's a light metal and it's a new trend.
I
And
think,
that is
I
the
think
reason
what Angelica reflects on
we
is,
will not fight with Brian.
is
But I'm
again,
just
the,
saying.
the intersection of aluminum and steel is a collaboration.
Yes.
And I think that'll continue for some time to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of looking ahead to perhaps 2030, is there anything the industry could do better? I know we're saying obviously we're flying the flag for metal packaging here, but I come to a lot of these conferences globally, and we're always good at talking amongst ourselves. But perhaps to the wider industry, I mean, obviously the competing packaging formats are very aggressive, particularly on social media, conferences, about getting on the front foot and knocking metal packaging. So is there anything we could do to perhaps be a bit more assertive to get our message across there? I mean, lots of Ball Corporation using influencers like Jason Momoa from Game of Thrones, those sort of things seem to resonate with consumers. I mean, is there anything that you two can think of in terms of the industry as a whole that we could do perhaps better so that we're not just talking amongst ourselves?
I'll use an example in Canada. Canada is going through sort of a revolution in terms of um, Canadian food in Canadian cans made from Canadian steel. And I've heard a number of members of the Canadian Parliament were taking on like grocery store tours, and they didn't realize that supply chain from that food that's grown in a field to the steel that's produced in Canada to the can that's made. And I suspect getting people to understand the supply chain better, to understand how from raw material to food, how it's integrated into a package would be a great story to tell, is what I would say.
Excellent. And Angelica, before we wrap things up, is there anything else to add there?
No, nothing. I'm covered. I mean, aluminum and steel are different but quite similar products. So I mean, I fully share what Brian mentioned.
And for the respective steel and aluminium markets, just your one wish for the future health of your respective industries. Is there one thing that you need to be focusing on for the next, perhaps up to 2030, for the next 2 or 3 years ahead?
Well, I would like, it's inevitable regarding aluminum. You also to the existing legislation, as I mentioned. Source aluminum with the biggest recycled content, because also the brands are asking for this biggest recycled content. And source aluminum, provide aluminum to our customers with lower CO2 emissions. And of course, by 2030, I believe that the AI will be a major parameter and factor to support the business, not only talking about market analysis, um, technical information, but also it is a point that we didn't mention today. AI can support us and will help the industry, and especially aluminum scrap shorting in several ways. So I believe that up to 2030, AI will be a major also parameter to support the business.
Absolutely, and recently conducted a podcast with Davide from
We
Steelforce
should have
Packaging, and
not a 30 minutes.
we could have another.
Or maybe 1 hour.
We could have
I have
another
so many
conversation
things to share
about.
with you.
Absolutely, we could have another conversation entirely about AI. So perhaps part of that one for another day. But Brian, in terms of the steel industry,
Yeah,
let's say, or one.
but I think we didn't mention the oversupply of steel that comes out of China and the need for corrections in that overproduction that China produced for China rather than just produce maybe for their own social needs. I think every steel producer in the world, whether you're in Europe, you're in Japan, you're in the U.S., Latin America, you're concerned about the onslaught of Chinese production and what it does to destabilize markets around the world. So I think more stability would come from more rational China, a more rational approach by China to how it uses and produces steel.
That's a very good point, and that's perhaps something that we can follow up on a separate conversation in a few months' time to see how things develop. So that's a really interesting point. And just before we open things up to the floor, if there's any questions, just in one word, in terms of the future of metal packaging, just to press you on one word, how would you describe things moving forward?
Shall I go first?
You always do. Go ahead.
It's a never-ending story. Circularity, a never-ending story.
Never ending
aluminum.
story. Brilliant.
And I will use 3 words: vibrant, ever-changing, and alive.
That's fantastic, and that's been I just want to thank you, babe. It's been a really interesting discussion. I've certainly learned a lot, and just admire your passion and enthusiasm, which really shines through. So appreciate your time, and yeah, thanks to the audience for listening. If there's any questions that you have, we'll be at the side there for a few minutes afterwards if you want to ask any questions to the guys. So appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
No worries.
Thank you.